Have you ever just looked around and felt like the world is lurching from one crisis to the next and nobody seems to have a real solution? Well, today we're going to unpack a pretty powerful framework that explains exactly why that's happening and, believe it or not, explores a surprising way forward.
Right. We see the headlines every single day. Climate chaos over here, economic free falls over there, political gridlock everywhere. But what if these aren't actually separate problems? The idea we're digging into today says they're all just symptoms of one big interconnected condition, something called the polycrisis.
And that brings up a really unsettling question, doesn't it? What if our global system, I'm talking the basic operating system of our whole civilization, is actually designed to create these crises? This analysis suggests the root cause isn't just a bad policy or some bad politicians, but it's actually our own collective unconscious drives for survival.
So, to really understand this systemic trop we're in, we need a metaphor. And it's a good one. It's called the Bucky Ball of Fear. And it's a concept that really helps visualize why making real, meaningful change feels so impossible sometimes.
Okay, so picture a geodesic dome, or, a classic soccer ball. It's a sphere made of all these interconnected panels, where every single piece holds all the others in place. That's the key. The point here is that our system isn't failing by accident. It's actually working exactly as it was designed, as this rigid, self-reinforcing structure.
And here are those interlocking panels. You've got the relentless demand for economic growth, which reinforces political power structures. And those structures, they thrive on social competition. Technology just accelerates the whole thing, while our culture is feeding us these stories about fear and scarcity that justify the whole cycle. You see how it works? Try to change just one of those pieces, and all the others just lock it right back in place.
This whole interlocking structure creates this really profound and, frankly, dangerous contradiction. And that brings us to what's called the survival paradox. And this is where it gets kind of wild. We go after these strategies that feel totally safe and rational, right? Like more economic growth for security, or pulling resources out of the ground for prosperity. But when you scale those instincts up to a global level, they become completely self-destructive. Our very attempts to make our future safer are actively destroying the planetary foundations we need to even have a future at all. Now, this paradox gets supercharged by a feedback loop that's basically running on fear. As our world gets more complex, it gets more unpredictable. That uncertainty creates fear. And what's our response to that fear? Well, we double down on the old strategies. More control, more growth. But that just makes the system even more unstable, which, you guessed it, creates even more uncertainty and more fear. We are literally trapped in a loop.
And this graph shows exactly where that loop has us stuck. We are living on the left side of this curve, in a state that's just dominated by fear. And that fear shows up as doubt, as distrust, as skepticism. It's a kind of paralysis that stops us from reaching that tipping point where real, effective, collective action could even become possible.
You know, the craziest thing is, this isn't a new story. History is just littered with civilizations that followed this exact same pattern. Build up, overshoot, and then collapse. The chilling difference, according to this analysis, is that for the very first time, this isn't a local problem. We are running this exact same script, but on a planetary scale. So, are we just doomed to repeat this cycle forever on a global scale? Well, the source material argues there might be a way out, an antidote to all this fear. It's what it calls a pathway to coherence. So the antidote to the Bucky Ball of Fear isn't another clever policy or some new piece of tech. It is a fundamental upgrade to how we relate to each other. It means we have to move from this fear-driven competition to a whole new model of trust-centered coordination, what this work calls conscious collaboration. But okay, that sounds a little abstract, right? How do you actually get billions of people to consciously collaborate? Well, this analysis proposes one potential answer: a totally new kind of global infrastructure, which it calls the Phoenix platform, designed specifically to make this shift possible.
Now, I know this diagram looks complex, but the core idea is actually pretty simple. Phoenix isn't supposed to be some top-down world government. Think of it more like a background layer. That central flow you see there, that's designed to help all these different groups make sense of our challenges together and coordinate what they're doing. The goal is to move us toward what it calls healthy coherence. At its absolute core, this whole platform is engineered to build trust. This architecture you see here is designed to directly fight back against all that fear and fragmentation we were just talking about. The idea is to create the conditions for psychological safety and shared understanding, because that's the foundation for any real collaboration. And this, right here, gets to the heart of it. The problem is not that we are lacking solutions for climate change, or poverty, or ecological collapse. We have tons of solutions. The real problem is our inability to actually implement them together. We're missing the collaborative infrastructure to connect the dots and scale up what actually works.
And that leaves us with this final, really crucial thought. Our challenge might not be a lack of ideas, or even a lack of will. It's the lack of a system that's actually designed for our collective wisdom to emerge and for us to act on it. So the ultimate question is, what becomes possible if we finally build it?